Hi everyone, welcome back. Thank you for joining me today. So I have some new paints. I'm going to be experimenting with those. These are actually by Rowney and they're System 3 fluid acrylics. So I've not used these before. I've got 7 different colours which I'm going to use in this creation, and I'm also mixing it with the Rowney System 3 fluid acrylic pouring medium. So again, I've not used this, so I'm going to go through step by step, show you the consistency before I water it down slightly and have a bit of fun. I'm actually going to use a transparent funnel to do this pour today. So lots of different things. I haven't done a funnel pour for a while. I'm using a circular canvas. I'm using specific fluid acrylic paints, and I am just so excited. So let's get going, and I'm really grateful that you're here with me. So as always, let's see what we can create. Okay, so guys, here are the paints. They are specific System 3 acrylic fluid paints. I've got 7 different colours that I'm going to experiment with today. So I will list everything in the description box. But as you can see, I've got a black, white, a red, a yellow, a green, an ultramarine and a purple. So they're the paints I'm going to use. This is the pouring medium that I'm also going to use, and I'm also going to experiment a little bit with more silicone oil. Again, this is all by Rowney, System 3 Acrylics. I've mixed all my paints up. I'll show you those consistencies in a minute, but let me just show you this. So people ask me all the time about how they can get more information about the paint brands that they use, and Rowney have exactly that on their website. You can go online and download the information sheet specific to the actual paints that you're using. So it gives you a list of all the colours that are available. So these are the new System 3 fluid acrylics. So you can see here I've got 7 different colours. It talks about what we've talked about recently, so how to identify if something is opaque. It gives you the light fastness, all the different colours and more information. So always check out to see if the brand of paint that you're using has that information sheet. So onto my colours. And again, depending on what colour you're using, might need a little bit more fluidity adding to it or less. So as you can see here on the information sheet, it does talk to you about the density of each paint. And I keep going on about the density because that will determine whether we can create cells naturally. So yeah, so they're the paints. So let me just show you some of the consistencies. So this is just using the paint and the pouring medium. The pouring medium label suggests that you use 1 part paint to 5 parts pouring medium. And that's the kind of consistency that it's going to give you. So it's fairly thick. It's going to run off your spatula and leave a trace and then disappear. I've found that the titanium white is a lot more fluid than the other colours. So you can see there, it's a little bit more fluid. So to get all the same fluidity, I'm going to add a little bit of water to these colours. But again, as you can see, fairly thick, runs off the spatula, and then just disappears into the paint. I found that the green is the thickest. So you can see there, it's a lot thicker. It leaves more of a trace before disappearing. But it's about playing around and getting an idea of how fluid these paints can be. So that's the paints that I'm using, and I'm ready to go. So before we continue, I have just added some water to these paints. Not much, literally half part water. So I will list all the ratios. But you can see I've made it just a little bit more fluid. But one thing that I would say with these paints is they're very smooth. So yeah, I've just made them a little bit more fluid, so when they fall into the cup, that just disappears. There's no real trace when you see the paint leave the spatula. So I just wanted to update you with that. But again, I'm going to list all the ratios in the description box. So what I've decided to do is add some silicone oil to the black. I've used 4 drops of the silicone oil into the paint, and I'm just mixing it around in the container. So the black, I've added 4 drops of silicone oil into this black, which will then be used with these going into the funnel. So let's see what kind of patterns we can create. So first of all, I'm going to puddle some white onto the canvas, just directly in the middle, and then I'm going to place the funnel over the top. I've picked up my canvas just to spread the paint out slightly, and then I'm going to take my funnel and place that over the top. So I've immersed the funnel into the paint, and that's going to act like a vacuum. So there will be some paint that still escapes underneath, but I'm just going to take one colour at a time and place the paint now inside the funnel. And remember, every time you see me use the black, that's the colour with a little bit of silicone in. So I'm expecting some cells to be formulated with this mixture. I'm really excited because I can see the paint coming out underneath the funnel, and as I lift it one by one up and down, the paint escapes fully. That's mixing with that white, and you can see those cells already formulating. So I need a little bit more volume of paint because I do want to cover this full canvas surface area. So I'm just going to use the colours again, one by one, place them inside the funnel, and then lift the funnel up by going up and down to allow that paint to escape from underneath. I am so excited to see how this turns out. Look at all that detail already on the surface area. I'm loving it. So let me continue with the paints. I will take you in for a closer look, but I just can't wait to see how this pattern really turns out. So I'm just using my torch to pop the air bubbles, but also to help with that cell reaction with that silicone oil. So let me just take you in now for a closer look, just so you can see some of that detail, some of that paint reaction before we start to tilt out that paint and spread that paint across the surface area by tilting it from side to side to move that volume of paint over that area. So I'm now just going to pick up the canvas, and it's really about making sure that I can spread that volume of paint across the full surface area, but also being mindful about the composition, looking at all the colours that are there. There's still some colours underneath that I want to expose, but as I do that, I can already see that paint reaction, and that white paint is kind of bursting through. So it's going to be really interesting to see the final piece once it's settled and dried. So let me take you in for a closer look at this wet version, and you can see all those details there. And it's going to be interesting to see how this develops over time before it fully dries, just to see how many more cells can be created and how that paint reacts with the silicone. So here's the dry version, slightly darker, but I'll just go in a bit closer so you can see some of those colours because they're just softly sitting there. I've had so much fun experimenting with this, and using a funnel again brings back great memories of other pieces that I've created. So I really do want to use the funnel again for some future pieces too. I hope you've had fun. Let me know if you try something like this, and I really hope I do get to see you again in another video. Take care everyone, have a great week, and remember, whatever you're up to creatively, I hope you're having fun. Allow yourself to enjoy that full process, and don't always worry about that end result. Just see where your creative juices take you. See you soon. Bye.